And welcome, traders, to Enduring Resolve, the podcast where we talk about achieving financial independence through trading. I am your host, Luis. This is episode 5, where we're going to talk about how many strategies do you need to succeed as a trader. Right? So, in this episode, we're going to talk about 4 things, which is the importance of a strategy, the different types of strategies that are out there, how to find them, and how to choose one. So, let's jump right in. So the importance of a strategy. This should be pretty self-evident, right? It's what gives you an edge. So in trading, we're always looking for something that gives us an edge. If your methods don't have an edge, you won't be profitable. It's just as simple as that. So you need a method that gives you that edge, and you don't necessarily have to come up with it on your own. There are people out there that do that. You can do that. Usually requires a lot more experience. Usually a newer trader probably is not going to come up with their own. You would have to do a lot of research, a lot of groundwork, a lot of background studies, and see what's been done, be in the know. That's not usually the way most newer people go. And with that, we're talking also strategy. We're talking about the ends. We're talking about what the big muscle movements that we are doing and why. That's what we're talking about with strategy. We're not talking tactics. We're not talking about finding entry points. We're not talking about how to determine whether you have a good trade or not. Those are tactics. That's going to be found on your trade plan. We'll get into what trade plans on in the future as these podcasts keep coming out. But we're talking in this episode just about what a strategy is. So the different types of strategies, and we've talked about these before. These first few episodes are all building on one another. So there's going to be a little bit of repetitiveness as we kind of set the foundation for what's to come. And it can't be said enough, So these are like the most important lessons that you could probably have as a trader. So to kind of revisit what types of strategies are out there, they fall into 2 big categories. One is active. The other is passive. And if you go back to one of our few first episodes about what the difference between trading and investing is, we talked about that trading is either quantitative trading or technical analysis. Our focus is going to be technical analysis throughout this whole conversation. So we won't be delving into anything statistical in nature from the vantage point of quantitative analysis or anything like that. We're going to remain in the realm of technical analysis for this whole talk of active and passive trading strategies. So an active trading strategy, these are the strategies that you have to be in front of a computer screen to do. So these are the strategies being used by intraday traders. Again, if you didn't hear our last episode, that an intraday trader is what the public, the layman, calls a day trader. That is a trader that is looking to go in and out of the market within one day. So that is intraday. You're not trading across days. You're intraday. So that's an intraday trader. Those people are using active, what's considered to be an active strategy. They're looking to get into the market usually using market orders and market exits, meaning that if you listen to one of our previous episodes where I discussed what a bracket order is, which is what a retracement trader is doing, which I'm not going to talk into much right now on that because that is in the passive category. But an active trader is looking to get into the market right now, and then when the conditions are met for them to exit the market, they want to do that right now. And they can do that because they are in front of the computer. So these are some strategies that tend to be momentum strategies. Another popular one is an opening range breakout. Those are all tend to be active strategies. And these require the most amount of time because you have to be in front of that computer. So it also means that now that trading is your job, right? So this is not something that you're doing passively, because passively is passive trading, which is swing trading, set forget trading, and what I mentioned before, the use of bracket orders. When you're using bracket orders, you're telling your broker, hey, this is the price I want to come in at, and if the trader goes against me, this is the price I want to get out at. If it goes in my favor, this is the price I want to get out at. This is my target. So it'll have an entry, a stop, and a target. So that's a bracket order. That's a lot what these passive traders are doing. They're usually looking for much bigger price movements. They're looking for retracements, also called pullbacks. Typically, these types of trades require a little bit more capital than their active counterparts. But the benefit with them is you don't have to be in front of the computer to do them. These are passive strategies. So with those two strategies out there, now you have to determine which one is right for you, and and how do you find them? Well, how do you find them is actually, it's not that difficult. Simply because there's a lot of people out there that will sell you one. You can Google this thing, and you can Google trading strategies, trading methods, and you will be inundated with all the types of different vendors out there trying to sell you on their strategy. So with that, it makes it a little trickier because I don't recommend a simple Google search to be the reason you go with a strategy. I would hope you would do a little more groundwork and investigation. So you want to go with a reputable business, hopefully one that's been around greater than 10 years, that has a track record. It's not fly by night. You can go to trade magazines. This is not a sponsored podcast, so the people that I'm mentioning right now, the businesses that I'm mentioning right now, didn't pay me anything to mention them. I'm not advertising for them. I'm sharing it with my experiences. But if you want to delve into a magazine that's been around since the early 80s is Stocks and Commodities. Very difficult to find at your local store, bookstore. I've been to Barnes & Noble. Some of them subscribe to the magazine. What I found is that many don't. I actually have a subscription myself with Stocks and Commodities. I think the last time I paid was sometime last year. I think it was about $80 a year. So it's not a cheap magazine, but it also doesn't have, I don't believe it has the circulation to warrant a lower price point. So it's catering to a very small number of people. In any case, that's a decent source to find a strategy. I found a strategy out of there that worked for me. Another one would be to go to the Money Show. There, you can Google that, Money Show. They put on a series of conferences. They call them Trader Expos. Again, they're not sponsoring this podcast at all. I went to my first event of theirs last year, Trader Expo Chicago. It was good. There was a lot of vendors there pitching you their strategies and their products and their methods. That'd be another good way to be exposed and to find a strategy for yourself, is go ahead and start looking through something like that. The Money Show has been around since the late 70s. It's best to go, in my opinion, to go with an entity that's been around for a while. That said, I don't know what you have to do in order to be able to present at a Money Show event. So I'd caution you with that. I don't know if it's simply, I can just go pay what X amount and then I get some time to speak with, sell my product, but I have no background. I don't know how much vetting is done with each one of these presenters. So be sure to take that into account and just ask questions. That's the best thing about going to that I saw last year was you can go to this event and you're actually either talking to a salesperson or you're talking to the actual person that is created the product and is selling the product. You can directly ask them questions about their platform, what is they use, how does it work, how much it costs, what is that you get for your money. So that I'd say that's a great one. And those shows are held almost internationally. I think it's both Canada and the U.S. It seems like every other month they're holding one somewhere. I know the one in Chicago happens in the summer. There's one in New York. There's several out in Vegas. So they travel the country. They get a good mileage out of this. And you can pick up a lot of good just experience just when going to one. They're usually about 3 days long. I'll go more than likely to the one again this year. Not for anything of picking up a new strategy, but I just really liked being in that environment, being around other traders, and seeing what they were doing, seeing what was becoming popular at that time. There's value aside from just looking for a strategy. It also helps you be in the trading community. But that's another great source again. So books, magazines, and that Money Expo, the Trader Expo conference cycle. So now that you've got a couple of strategies coming your way, you're seeing, momentum strategies, retracement strategies, breakout strategies, contrarian strategies. How do you choose a strategy? Well, that is by far the most difficult element of all this. So that's going to require flexibility, exploration, and a lot of commitment on your part. This is where now the rubber meets the road. This is where you're going to have to get in there and start giving each one of these an honest try, not just, oh, I tried that. I did about 10, 20 trades on it. No. You give it its due. You run many sim trades with it. At the end of the day, what you'll start finding is that your personality is going to play a huge part on which strategy best suits you. So you'll find that some strategies are just not your speed. You don't like waiting for a trade. And I use myself as an example. So I have two strategies. One that is still in test phase, but the other one, they were both related. I'm an OTA student, Online Trading Academy, not sponsoring this podcast either, but that's where I learned my first trading strategies was through them. They taught a method that was pretty much retracement strategy for futures. Through them as well, I paid and went to one of their instructors and found that he was a breakout trader. That I liked much better than what they call their core strategy. So I implemented that for my futures trading. So I like being in the game. I don't like waiting for price to retrace, hit my order, and then follow it to see how long it took to hit my target or get stopped out. So I learned that for futures trading, I like winning and losing, and I like to know that as soon as possible. So I'm pretty much a breakout momentum trader when it comes to futures. Now, what I'm trying to do is, and I'm in sim for this, is employing that core strategy from OTA in options, which is more of a swing trade. So I'm trying to make income with my futures trades and then wealth with my options trades. So that didn't happen overnight. It took me 2 years to figure out that was what Luis Martinez liked doing when it came to trading. So you got to keep yourself out there. You got to keep looking and exploring and being open, especially as a newer trader. I caution you though, I went through this myself, is don't do a lot of trades, a lot of strategies at the same time. We're too new to be able to have the proficiency necessary to be successful in just about any strategy. And when you're trying to juggle multiple strategies in your first couple of months or first couple of years of being a trader, you're doing yourself a disservice. Like I went from being a profitable trader at the end of 2018 to starting 2019, just January of 2019, I immediately was negative. And when I did my analysis of what happened that month, I was employing something like 10 strategies. That is not the way to do it. And when I looked at it, the strategy that actually made money, it was the one that I had been using for 2 years. So all those other strategies undid all the profits and then some that I made off that first strategy. So that's to show you that you need to kind of give everything its due. And the biggest problem with that is I did that live. I was very confident, overly confident on what my skills were. And had I just done what I had been working on for those 2 years in practice mode, I would have had a profitable month. But because I decided to jump on board and do all these other strategies that I had learned about and had no proficiency in weren't me when I was trading them. Meaning they didn't cater to my personality and I didn't have the skill sets to trade them. They completely did me in. What the right thing to have done was trade that strategy that fit me, that I understood, did that live, and all those other strategies to have done those in sim until I got proficient enough or familiar enough with them to say, this is not something that is good for me, is not the way I trade. I am not going to use this strategy live, and just throw it in the bin, right? So that's the process that you're going to have to go through in choosing your strategy. It's not an easy process. It's going to take some legwork. Now, for the way ahead here, we're going to talk some more as to finding your way as a trader. That's going to be our next episode. Is now that you're finding this strategy, we're building here, guys. We're building. So we started with the first episode of why we're doing this. Now we're talking about strategies, and the next one is how do we keep building. So if you want to keep posting as to what's coming our way, head over to our website, www.enduringresolve.com. Subscribe. This is all right now as the recording of this podcast, a exclusive podcast, but we do have a YouTube channel that will be having some videos coming up. You can go subscribe to that as well. The easiest way to keep posted as to everything that's coming out content-wise is to subscribe to www.enduringresolve.com. And I thank you so much for your time today, and I look forward for you tuning in our next show. And until then, keep it green.